innocence and knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prayer emanates, by him ignorance is destroyed. The very scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and Lord and master of the lowliest. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of the fruit of his feet. Make your fame spread all over the worlds. Take shelter of your lotus feet, Srila Prabhupada. Avam Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Vracha Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vracha Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Bihari. Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vracha Chanaranjana. Yashodanandana Vracha Chanaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kuncha Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra.
Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath,
Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shanta Shri Srimad Tridandi Goswami Divine Grace Srila Abhay Charanarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanang Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamang Deving Saraswating Vyasang Tato Chaya Mudirayet Nasta Preshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So we are reading from the fourth canto, chapter 26, text 14. Antapura strio prichchat
Tapura Striyo Prishat
Vimana iva vedisha
Vimana Iva Vedisha
Apiva kushalang rama
Apiva Kushalam Rama
Shishvarinang yatapura
Shishvarinam Yatapura
Antapura strio prichchat
Tapura Striyo Prishat
Vimana iva vedisha
Vimana Iva Vedisha
Apiva kushalang rama
Apiva Kushalam Rama
Shishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura
Antapura striyo prechcha
Antapura striyo prechcha
Vimana iva vedisha
Vimana iva vedisha
Abhiva kushalang rahma
Abhiva kushalam rama
Shishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura Antapura striyo prechcha Antapura striyo prechcha Vimana iva vedisha Vimana iva vedisha Abhiva kushalam rama Abhiva kushalam rama Svishvarinam yata pura Svishvarinam yata pura
Antapura striyo prechcha
Antapura striyo prechcha
Vimana iva vedisha
Vimana iva vedisha
Abhiva kushalam rama
Abhiva kushalam rama
Svishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura
Antapura striyo prechcha
Antapura striyo prechchat
Vimana iva vedisha
Vimana iva vedishat
Abhiva kushalam rama
Abhiva kushalam rama
Svishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura
Mataji's
Antapura striyo prechcha
Antapura striyo prechchat
Vimana eva vedisha
Vimana iva vedishat
Abhiva kushalam rama
Abhiva kushalam rama
Svishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura
Antapura striyo prechcha
Antapura striyo prechchat
Vimana eva vedisha
Vimana iva vedishat
Abhiva kushalam rama
Abhiva kushalam rama
Svishvarinam yata pura
Svishvarinam yata pura Antapura
Antapura
household
household
Striya
Striya
woman
woman
Aprechchat
Aprisha
he he asked
he asked
Vimanaha
Vimanaha
being very much anxious
being very much anxious
Eva
Eva
like
like
Vedishat
Vedisha
O King Prachinavari
O King Prachinavari
Api
Api
whether
whether
Va
Va
your
your
Kushalam
Kushalam
good fortune
good fortune
Ramaha
Ramaha
O you beautiful woman
O you beautiful woman
Sa Ishvarinam
Saishvarinam
with your mistress
with your mistress
Yata
Yata
as
as
Pura
Pura
before
before
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. At that time King Puranjana was a little anxious and he inquired from the household woman, My dear beautiful woman, are you and your mistress all happy like before or not? In this verse the word Vidishat indicates King Prachinavari. When a man becomes refreshed by association with devotees and awakens to Krishna consciousness, he consults the activities of his mind, namely thinking, feeling and willing, and decides whether he should return to his material activities or stay steady in spiritual consciousness. The word Kushalang refers to that which is auspicious. One can make his home perfectly auspicious when he engages in devotional service to Lord Vishnu. When one is engaged in activities other than Vishnu Bhakti, or in other words, when one is engaged in material activities, he is always filled with anxieties. A sane man should consult his mind, its thinking, feeling, and willing processes, and decide how these processes should be utilized. If one always thinks of Krishna, feels how to serve him, and wills to execute the order of Krishna, it should be known that he has taken good instruction from his intelligence, which is called the mother. Although the king was refreshed, he nonetheless inquired about his wife. Thus he was consulting, thinking and willing how he could return to his steady good consciousness. The mind may suggest that by Vaishya Bhog or sense enjoyment one can become happy. But when one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, he does not derive happiness from material activities. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina. Rasavarchang rasopyasya parang drishtva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense enjoyments remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. One cannot be unattached to the sense objects unless he finds better engagement in devotional service. Parang drishtva nivartate. One can cease from material activities only when one actually engages in devotional service. Once again the verse. Apiva kushalang antapura striyo prichchat vimana iva vedishat apiva kushalang rama shishvarinang yatapura. At that time King Puranjana was a little anxious, and he inquired from the household woman, "My dear beautiful woman, are you and your mistress all very happy like before or not?" Om Jnana Timirandasya Kinanjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupang Sakrajatang Sahagana Raghunatang Vidang Tvang Sachivang Sadvaitang Savatutang Parijana Sahitang Krishna Chaitanya Devang Sri Radha Krishna Padam Saha Kanalalita Shri Vishakan Vitangscha Namo Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Narmostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Was it? Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. once again the verse. Anta pura pura striyo prichat vimana iva vedisha apiva kushalang rama shishvarinam yata pura. At that time King Puranjana was a little anxious, and he inquired from the household woman, "My dear beautiful woman, are you and your mistress all very happy like before or not?" So King Puranjana, this is still Narada Muni explaining to King Prajinabarhi about the pastimes of King Puranjana, who just returned from the forests after a killing spree, and he returned home, and he found, in the next verse we'll see, found that his wife, he had some sense that his wife was not really happy, and therefore he inquires from the household woman, Magd, what's Magd? Maidservant. So he asked from the maidservant about how her mistress, his wife, is, whether she is happy or not. So he became a little bit anxious about whether his wife is still happy or not, and in the and therefore he asked this question. So Prabhupada explains here that one consults the activities of the mind, namely thinking, feeling and willing, and then decides what to do. Prabhupada says then he decides whether to return to his material activities or stay steady in spiritual consciousness. So maybe for us, if we are still trying to develop our spiritual consciousness, it's not such a... Often we decide, okay, now I want to do things want to do whatever I do for Krishna, and just when we start with this, then just the next second we realize, oh, I'm again doing it for some personal benefit. I expect something out of this for whatever I do, and so it's not... It's not such a conscious process for us to stay in spiritual consciousness. As we are so much conditioned that our conditioning immediately takes us again into another direction. Because what we would like to come through is is that we always think of Krishna, that we never forget him. That would be our goal. maybe you can see that I'm also now a little bit in anxiety, like Kim Puranjana. It's not really for me. I like to listen, I don't like to speak. Because Prabhupada mentions here the intelligence, and intelligence is connected with knowledge to some degree, and with realized knowledge in the first it is knowledge that we acquire some theoretical knowledge, and then afterwards we at some point hopefully we realize it also. So I'd like just to mention something about the and we heard, I don't know, many times, but Prabhupada sometimes makes the example of a little boy that gets a book in his hands, and then afterwards he thinks, now I am also a Vaishnava, a saint, and now I also know everything. Maybe he has read a little bit in the book, and then he walks around proud with the book. Now I am somebody. So this state of consciousness, this has also been researched by material psychologists, especially after there was an incident in, I think, 96 or something like that. There was a bank robbery in America. Arthur Wheeler robbed the bank. You can see that? Yeah. He robbed the bank, and he smeared lemon juice on his face, because he learned this in his childhood, that lemon juice, you can put lemon juice on a paper, you can write something on a paper, and you don't see it. Only when you put it over the flame of a candle or something, then you can see it. So he rubbed lemon juice, yes, on his face, and thought, that makes me invisible. So the police was quickly there, and they looked at the camera, and they had his pictures, put it on the news, and in the evening they already catched him, and he was very astonished. How can this be? I used lemon juice. and the police and some psychologists who heard about this, they were a little bit, what is happening here? Why can we be so simple as to believe that when you put lemon juice that you are invisible? And they started to research about this and examined different people in different states of consciousness, and they found out that sometimes persons who have very little knowledge about a subject, they are very overconfident about their abilities. So, like here, this person who is obviously not very strong, or Yeah. He's not. He thinks just because I put on these new shoes, I will certainly be the marathon winner. So they found, and they named it. They found this effect. It's to be the Dunning-Kruger effect. These were the two psychologists, and it's best being explained in a graph. I don't know. Are most of you familiar in how to read a graph? It's the two axes. So on this graph, this axis is confidence in one's own abilities. And here it is how much knowledge about the person really has on the subject. So they found that when somebody acquires, I can hide here. When somebody acquires a little bit of knowledge, his degree of Selbstvertrauen, confidence rises very quickly to a very high level, and then this person thinks, yes, I know everything, I know how things work, I know what is going on. And afterwards, when somebody starts to go on studying, they realize relatively quickly that they acquire more knowledge, but their self-confidence is decreasing quite a bit, because they realize things are a little bit more complicated than I thought in the beginning. And in the end, not the end, but if one studies further, then one becomes again confident and has a lot more knowledge. So, if a discussion between three persons in either of these states, if there would be a discussion with either of these three persons, with a very simple person who knows a little bit, these persons are often very confident, very outspoken. They always know the answer. They're the first to, yes, I know, and they are quite proud often. And somebody like her who is studying, who is a little bit has more knowledge actually, but is rather insecure about her knowledge, because it is not yet really realized and she cannot maybe apply it, she or he, of course. And then a wise person who is confident but still knows things are not as simple as they often as they present themselves. So so the first person, the simpleton, is usually very quick to answer, and he's very bold and self-confident. And in today's society, often these people are very much active. No, but by the masses like also such people, because they it looks like they are confident and like they know everything, and they are quite quick and strong in their how they behave and so. So and the others come across a little bit more cautious and maybe insecure, so which makes people think like they don't know what they are speaking about. So they made, for example, an investigation in America back in the, I don't know, 90s or something, where they asked asked many American car drivers how they think about their own abilities to drive. So, and they found so they found that 93% of the American people were saying, I'm really, really, really good at driving cars. And they did the same survey, yeah, in Sweden, and there only about 69% of the people thought that they are so good drivers. So it's also something that maybe we can observe in ourselves, that when we start to study something, Srila Prabhupada's books or a specific subject within the spiritual atmosphere, that in the beginning we might think, oh yes, now I know a few verses, now I know I've read 1 or 2 books, or I've listened to 20 lectures, now I know what Krishna consciousness is about. But when we go on reading, studying, listening, then most probably we will realize that it's not so simple as I thought in the beginning, and it's a little bit more complex. My whole situation in relation to spiritual life, other devotees' situation in relation to spiritual life. What is spiritual life really about? And how can I make progress in spiritual life? And for me, this is easy to, I can see this in myself when sometimes I preach to others. I can remember back in the 90s when I just joined and so, and new guests came on Sunday, or I met them on the street and so, and starting to preach to them or talk with them about spiritual life, about Krishna consciousness. Whenever they said something, oh no, hey, Shiva is God, or everything is there is no specific God, or Christians. When I met Christians, then say, oh no, Jesus is the most important person that is said in the Bible. Then I always felt that like now I have to tell them that Krishna, it's only Krishna and nothing else, like we heard from Prabhupada. But then usually I just ran into of course, they were offended, or they just more strongly tried to make their points. And now it's also, I learned that it's not so black and white like sometimes I thought is spiritual life, that other persons are just in a different position, and from that position they cannot just jump to another conclusion. Und hoeveel? Are there any questions?
Sorry. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, especially for this analogy that you gave with the stealer and the people that like actually don't know anything but think they know. Yes, and I had a question about the story of Puranchana actually, because I didn't understand why he was anxious about his intelligence, because his wife is representing her intelligence, right? And if we
His wife is representing
the intelligence, as I understand it correctly.
Okay.
And I didn't understand why we get anxious about her when we like take rest and purify ourselves. Maybe you can help, or someone else, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Maybe there's just a misunderstanding of myself also.
Somebody want to jump in?
I don't understand the question. Clear and objective.
Yes, I thought the wife of King Puranchana represents our intelligence, right? And I don't understand why he's anxious about his intelligence when he's going through this purification process and retire from the material activities, because this is what the story tells about, right?
Sankhya philosophy, the intelligence is superior to the mind. The material intelligence is function is organized. The our way in material, yes. What's good, what's bad. The function of the intelligence is discrimination. What is better, what is worst. But the mind is considered superior because the function of the mind have the function of meditation. The mind can attach it to Krishna. Yes, this is the function of the mind. But the mind sometimes is so strong that arrested, pull the intelligence. If this was the question.
I can something that I thought about is this whole analogy of King Puranjana, Puranjini, and it all represents different aspects of the personality eventually. And I think we all have this experience when we do something bad. No, we do something which we knew we shouldn't do it, but then we do it. And then after we did it, our intelligence again comes back, and then we realize we did a mistake. You know, sometimes we have that experience. And so it's interesting because, especially as a devotee, you know, we're supposed to do certain things like wake up for Mangala Arati, you know, and then in the morning when the alarm goes off, somehow the mind becomes stronger than the intelligence, and you don't get up, you just sleep. But then later on, when you actually get up, your intelligence comes back, and you start to realize, I didn't get up. And then you have this, how you say, schlechtes Gewissen?
Bad conscience.
Bad conscience. Schlechtes Gewissen. So this is a kind of anxiety, you know, that now you can realize your intelligence is actually present again before you and telling you that this was not. And then it creates some anxiety, some bad conscience in you. And that's how I would describe it, because the whole story is like he is with the intelligence, and then he leaves her, and he does something wrong, and then he comes back, and he realizes the intelligence is not so happy. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
we want to know opinion of intelligences.
in a way, yeah. We want to have the intelligence unified with us, no? And so this bad feeling comes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It was very interesting, this Kruger effect. I remember I saw an experiment also that was conducted with some young people, students, and young professionals, and they put them all together in one room in front of the camera, and they had to discuss who thinks is the most intelligent. It was really interesting, it's like, yeah, I think I'm quite intelligent. Actually, most of them were actually thinking they're quite intelligent. I was at this Harvard University, I'm in the army, some high rank, and so everybody was in their own way thinking that I'm doing something that others cannot do, so I'm very intelligent, I'm probably the most intelligent. Anyway, then they had to fill out IQ test, and of course IQ test is not not the proof of intelligence 100%, but it does indicate something, things. But anyway, then the interesting thing is that the person who thought, one of the persons who thought is he or she is the most intelligent, was actually had the lowest score in the test, and just couldn't understand. She said, "Oh, this test is not, this is useless." It was just completely denying. Yeah, and then, but the interesting thing is that the person who had the highest score, he didn't, he was more like, more open. He said, "I don't know, I think they're all quite, smart people." So he was more, he was not so convinced that he's the smartest person. Exactly what you said, that if you are good at something, or experienced in some certain field, then you don't consider yourself the best person, because there's so much. And but it's, yeah, I just wanted to share that. If anybody wants to look it up, it's on YouTube.
How to find it?
I forgot the title, but intelligence experiment, something like this.
Thank you.
Have a research in Harvard from 50. The name is Howard Gardner. He did the theory of the multiplying intelligence. In true, we have different departments of intelligence. We can do the question: who is more intelligent, Pelé or Einstein? If you base it in the theory of Ki, yes, the intelligence coefficient, these abilities to mathematics, physics, this rational ability, Einstein is more intelligent. But the intelligence is too much more abundant, yes. And this research divide around the 10 fields of intelligence, yes. Emotional intelligence, sport intelligence, and this kind of the intelligence of Pelé. Your skills is very grow. Language intelligence, yes, the divide. Musical, yes. What kind of intelligence have Ravi Shankar or Beethoven, yes? And this is compatible with Bhagavad Gita, because Krishna says, all these abilities, all these skills, all this intelligence is for organizing our life